Hi, my name's Phil. I like to come out politics. So, Donald Trump is not a happy bunny. Again, it has transpired that Wall Street investors like to come up with jocular terms to describe trading phenomena, and they've come up with another one to describe the interplay between Trump and the markets. TACO. Trump always chickens out. Needless to say, Trump absolutely hates it. However, it's completely true. The markets are the only thing which has been able to hold Trump to account. So let's look at Trump's primal fear. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So the power of TACO. You can understand why Trump hates it. It's catchy. It's the sort of thing which is going to be widely reported. And above all, it's not just that it's true, it's undeniable. Trump and his government have been on an absolute mission to replace the truth. He challenged a journalist to accept an obviously doctored image as true on camera. He did something similar with a recent visit of the president of South Africa. Why can't you see there are four lights, he's saying. Proper 1984 conditioning. Yet, there's nothing he can do against this one. There's no one person driving it that he can persecute, and despite his repeated attempts to claim half of his announcements are just deliberately designed to be reversed in order to get a good deal, out of the deal, mate, out of the deal, he's not really won anything. Certainly nothing to compensate for the damage he's done to the markets and people's pension funds, and Elon Musk is really very unhappy at losing a third of his wealth, but more on him later. And this TACO jibe has power. Not that it's intended as a jibe. It's not intended as an attack on Trump, although that is how such a self-centered man is inevitably taking it. It's purely a way of helping investors rationalize decisions. Their investment moves are going to factor in the fact that whatever outlandish threat Trump makes against trade, he will inevitably soften it within a matter of days or weeks. That's all. It's just an observation of the fact that the markets are pricing into a behaviour here. And actually, that's a good thing for Trump. It means the markets are not going to suffer quite as much in future when he announces some crazy trade barriers, because investors will think it won't actually end up being that bad. In fact, the worst thing that could happen now is that Trump changes his behaviour and actually sticks to his guns. That really would be the way to Recession City. But the term has the power of the little boy pointing out that the emperor had no clothes. Despite the serious purpose of the term, it does ridicule the president. It is going to become a famous phrase. And every time Trump backs down on his trade barriers, that term is going to do the rounds again. Trump is hating it, but I think there's another aspect to it which he's hating even more. He's hating the fact that this is a challenge to his authority, his control, his masculinity, the whole works, and he doesn't know what he can do about it. Trump is a petty, vengeful man, the Oompa of vengeance. He is reported to have a very long list of people he thinks have wronged him in the past, and even hires someone to manage the list and remind him of the people on it when there's an opportunity for him to act against them out of pure spite. So, it's quite common for very senior people, political leaders or heads of businesses, to have a diary secretary. He has a book of grudges secretary, apparently. Now, if true, that means he doesn't just take revenge. It means he actually hired someone to make sure he doesn't accidentally let anyone off the hook. But what does he do here? He can go after lawyers, he can go after universities, entire federal departments, other politicians, businesses, banks, you name it. He is willing and able to use the power of the state to wage a war of petty revenge against America's freedoms. And he is enthusiastically aided by allies who don't really care about his need for vendetta, but they see the benefit in crushing opposition to their monocultural will. But he can't do anything against investors. He can't force them to make different investment decisions. He can't stop them talking about how to approach Trump's trade policy. But it goes beyond that. He's afraid of them. The reason Trump always chickens out is because he cannot live with the consequences of the market reactions to his trade policies. Every single chickening out that Trump has initiated, and there have now been many, some big, some small, have all been with the intention of steadying the markets. He's even said so. It's only because he's a spectacular moron that we're even in this position. His move against civic freedoms and federal infrastructure, they all make strategic sense within the aim of turning America into a far-right fascist dictatorship. But his trade policies are his alone, and they're self-defeating. So Trump is basically like a young drunk, retching into the toilet every night, promising to never drink again because it's just not worth it, only to be at the bar again the next night. Trump is determined to go ahead with unfunded tax cuts and a policy of revenue raising from tariffs. He adopted both of these policies in his first term. He doesn't think they went far enough. What he doesn't seem to understand is that he's now operating in a fundamentally different economic system. During his first term, debt was cheap. This allowed successive Republican governments to borrow heavily for no real investment, but still balance the books. Now, not only is that historical debt much more expensive, but the cost of adding to the pile is going to bring huge problems in the future. Got the same problem in the UK. The main difference here, even though I think our government's not approaching it in quite the right way, is that they are at least trying to think about the long-term health of the economy. Trump is not awake to the new reality of very expensive debt. However, investors are, like moving away from the stock markets, investors in treasury bonds. They're wary of the conditions under which the treasury may not pay out on the bond yields. The first is that the cost of servicing the debt increases. The second is that the government borrows too much. Well, the impact of either one of these conditions means that a future government will be faced with the problem that the UK government now has. They need to maintain public spending. They need to invest in public infrastructure after a previous government let everything grind to a halt. And they will not find it politically easy to raise the taxes needed to do it. Something has to give, and investors worry that maybe yields are what gives. So the Treasury has to offer more attractive yields to tempt them to buy, but that only drives the cost of borrowing up even more, which is what we've been seeing in the UK. Like, bonds are usually seen as a safe investment. The returns in the stock market are way better if you get it right, but if you're not sure about the stock market, you move to bonds as a safer option until it all calms down. The whole point of bonds for most investors is they are lower return over the long term, but they're lower risk as well. But Trump is increasing the risk by not only undermining American trade with his tariffs and cuts to investment, but borrowing heavily for tax cuts, which will not pay for themselves at any time in the future. So investors in the bond market are viewing Treasury investments as a higher risk. And whenever Trump does something to increase that risk, the yields have gone up, making it harder and harder for Trump to balance the books. So whenever this has happened, he's always done or said something designed to calm the markets down. Mostly this has taken the form of pausing some insane tariff proposal, chickening out. But Trump doesn't seem to understand that things are different now, so he's going to keep doing it. As far as he's concerned, he borrowed for tax cuts before, so why can't he do it again? Well, ask Liz Truss why not. Actually, better still, don't. She doesn't seem to understand herself. But it was the same reason. Investors in the British bond market decided that her economic policies would raise the risk of defaulting on payments so high that a load of them tried to sell those bonds really very quickly. And because interest rates were rising, it was creating a serious debt problem that they weren't convinced a future government would manage. Trump has more leeway. America has more advantages than the UK did, but these same principles hold. And we know that Trump fears the markets because they are the only things which have so far forced him to materially change position. Taco. And yet he keeps trying to go back to the position which caused the problem in the markets. It's like he thinks if he sneaks up to it like an orange ninja, that he'll be able to get away with his nonsense without investors noticing, only to then beat a hasty retreat whenever it goes tits up, muttering about the need to be even more stealthy next time. He actually reminds me of a friend I had going back a bit. Lactose intolerant. Not severe enough to be life-threatening, but to make the meal. But they really liked chocolate biscuits. So he'd have one, then shit himself inside out. Didn't stop him because he really liked chocolate biscuits. Trump's the same. He really loves tariffs. I think he meant it when he said how beautiful they were. He's been a big fan of them for decades, so he's not looking like he wants to let them go now. But they make the markets shit themselves inside out, which makes for a big headache for Trump himself. So as much as he hates the term taco, it's here to stay as long as Trump continues wolfing those chocolate biscuits down. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.